Coming up next on Get Caught in a Net.
Caught in a net with ANet. For your mind, body, and soul. Get caught in a net with ANet. It's your intellectual radio show. Here to inspire you and encourage you to be your very best. Get caught in a net with ANet.
You are now tuned in to Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette, where your host, Annette Harris, analyze intriguing life questions and concerns, such as, do Christians suffer from mental illness? Have you wondered why they act abnormal? Or you may ask, what is really going on in their minds? Do you need Annette? Well, keep listening for a biblical understanding of the psychology of the mind.
Hey guys, great afternoon. Welcome to another wonderful segment of Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette. I'm your host, Annette Harris. I am also your certified mental health ambassador and author of Surviving a Silenced Heartbeat. I'm so excited to be here on this afternoon, guys. We have a great program for you on today. Listen, let me do this first. Lord, we thank you for all things. We thank you for this wonderful day that you blessed us to see. We thank you for what you're doing and how you're getting the glory out of our lives. Bless this segment and everything we go to say and do. In Jesus' name we pray. And the opening scripture is the first part of Hosea 4:6. And it states, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. And again, I always tell you, if you see my face around noon on a Wednesday, Central Standard Time, of course, it's time for you to come on and get caught in a net. Listen, we know that today starts off our Women's History Month. Yes, yay for the women. So we're going to acknowledge them this month. We're going to start off with a wonderful guest and co-host on today. But before I bring them in from our virtual waiting room, I want to let you know there are a couple of ways that you can listen to us, watch us live on today. And I see you guys coming in already, and I do truly appreciate you. I am live on my Facebook page, Annette GetCaughtInANet, also live on my YouTube channel, GetCaughtInANet Incorporated, and live here on my Instagram channel, GetCaughtInANet. So if you get caught in that, you won't miss us. Haha, pun intended. So I am going to bring in my beautiful guests on today and encouraging each of you as I am doing that to go ahead and click that share button. Click the share button, tag individuals in to this live feed. As a reminder, we've already had our promos to go out that we're on. I always say throw up the thumbs up, the heart, the care button. And again, as I already stated, make sure you tag individuals into the live feed. You see in my presence, I have, I'm gonna start off with the co-host. Let me start off with the co-host on today. co-host, I have, you've seen this familiar face, beautiful woman of God, Gwendolyn Gaston-Gray, owner of Gaston-Gray Consulting and our professional voiceover artist. She's done many great projects with that wonderful voice of hers. How are you doing on today?
I'm absolutely wonderful. I'm so excited about this particular show.
Oh, I guess we'll find out why. Well, thank you for coming in and consenting to co-host with me on today. I truly appreciate it. It's always a
Thank you
great
for
time.
having me.
Oh, thank you. And we have a returning guest. She's not new to Mind, Body, and Soul. She's gotten caught up in the net. Even had her own little theme song singing herself. A couple of years ago. Well, welcoming back to Mind, Body, and Soul, Adell Coleman DuBose is here, and she's the Chief Operating Officer of DCP Entertainment. I had to take my time to say that. So she's only one letter away from CEO. Oh, all right. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good. I'm excited and glad to be here again.
Good. I am so glad that you consented. I appreciate that. I admire you from afar, and I see all the things that you're doing. Of course, Gwen as well. But I'm looking at Adell. There's so many, I think you're such a wonderful example to your generation, and even the ones before you.
Our generation as well.
Thank
Yes,
you.
but, you're such a go-getter, and one that you're not going to stop until you accomplish your goals, and that's encouraging. It's encouraging to me. And so when we wanted to recognize Women's History Month, what better person to start it off with than yourself on today? So I'm truly excited. Let me do this real quick. Karen, I see you. Thank you for coming in, my dear. I sure appreciate you. That's my girl. Let's see. Okay, so I have a few things. I actually have your bio in front of me. But what I want you to do, Adell, if you would not mind introducing yourself to my audience. If you, in your own words, who is Adell?
Sure. You know what's so funny? Like I talk for a living, but I always say it's hardest to talk about myself. It's like we'll get through this. Yes, my husband says like you're too humble. But yeah, okay. So yes, my name is Adell. My background is in media. I went to college, Penn State, for mass communications. I used to work at SiriusXM producing a few shows over there, and then moved to executive producing for the channel. I actually get my radio background from high school. I started a local radio station here in the Washington, D.C. area. I now work for a company called DCP Entertainment. We're a multimedia company, but right now we're focusing on the space of podcasting. We like to tell stories of those underrepresented communities and diverse voices and people of color that you don't and have not. It's getting better, but in the past I hadn't really heard a lot from. So there I work as Chief Operations Officer, which is in the title. I oversee our daily operations, make sure our team keeps the ball rolling on a lot of our content. I do a few speaking things representing our company when invited to speak. I co-host and executive produce one of our shows, Say Their Name, which there we speak to families who have lost someone due to the negative impact of police violence. That's a passion project of mine that I thought about years ago while at SiriusXM, but it didn't. Never mind. We couldn't do it there. We'll just say that. But like that was important to me because I thought it was important to not just talk about the incident of what happened to a lot of these families, but talk directly to the families themselves. We don't get to hear from them and learn about who that person was before the encounter, because I think sometimes as human beings, we get numb to just kind of constantly seeing hashtags that we should be reminded that these are actual people who had lives, who had communities, who had loved ones, who live lives. And by humanizing it, we can show more empathy to the families and find ways to change the laws and sympathize and support them, because it's not a one-off that this one thing happened and that's it. It's a rippling effect to them, their communities, and everyone else. And I think it's important to speak to that. Um, So I did a lot of traveling, around the country a few years ago, just kind of talking to a lot of the families about what happened to their loved ones from their perspective. And so we share and we give them our platform to speak on that. I also I curate our newsletter, which is Your Podcast Playlist, which is a discovery newsletter. We can learn about dope podcasts and content creators out there. I focus on people of color and not just podcast hosts, but creators and people that are in the background, because I feel like they don't get a lot of acknowledgement as they should. And then I also contribute to the Black Podcasters Association newsletter. And I do a feature Friday that I write out there myself as well. So a little bit of writing, a little bit of speaking, a little bit of podcasting, a little bit of overseeing, a little bit of everything. Oh, and I'm a mom too. I don't know. Yeah, 2 children, that part. My soon-to-be 9-year-old Athena and my 2-year-old Gemini child, Zora. Yeah, so that's a lot. So
Yeah, you juggle a lot.
Yeah, I always tell people the best way to describe them is sugar and spice. Athena's super sweet and emotional, and Zora is super spicy. She's also sweet, but she give you that heat first before she
Bring on the heat, huh?
That is so sweet.
Sour Patch Kid for sure, but she's
right.
So, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I wanted you to do that, and you did. Of course, you did it so well, because I wanted everyone to know you, just like you mentioned about with the Say Their Name. You want people to know those individuals or the victims, their lives and everything. But I wanted them to know who Adell is and how you juggle all these hats. You probably leave a couple of them on at a time. I don't know.
Sometimes, yeah. I got a big head, so it works.
Well, that's wonderful. And you're actually, like I mentioned earlier, a great example. I see you guys coming in over on Instagram. Thank you, Queen Michi-san. We appreciate you joining on today. And I see you, Janice, and I did mention Karen earlier. Again, when you guys come in, go ahead, click that share button, tag individuals if you would not mind doing that for me. I always tell you, it costs you nothing to do that. It doesn't cost you anything. And what you're doing is you're getting this out. You're reminding individuals that we're on today. And this is a segment that we need to tune into. Miss Gwen, did you want to ask her anything first before I move on?
You know what I will do, because she did such a wonderful job. You're getting better, Adell, at talking about yourself. I think the people heard a little bit more than they did the last time, which is wonderful. I just want to say, I will actually ask questions as you begin, if you don't mind, Annette. But I love your spirit, Adell. I love the humbleness. But I think it's important, and the reason why I believe Annette is highlighting this is just that so people can be inspired, not just your generation, not just the millennials, but even my generation, even, the baby boomers, even those, that are older. There's a certain go get itness that you have. You have it, but you operate in a quiet mode.
Yeah.
If we didn't ask questions of you, or, we wouldn't even know. We have no clue because you don't share that way. But I'm excited. I'm excited about today. I'm excited each time, that I hear you share, because I learn a little bit more, not just about, Adell, but about, that drive, that push, and really going after really what you want. And you're in an industry that I've gravitated toward in the last, maybe 20 years, and I absolutely love it. But I know that was a long way to answer your question, Annette, but I'll jump in as you go along, if you don't mind.
No, that is fine. You're bringing out what we're trying to do here, of course, which is to focus on Adell's life, her your life mission, what you do and how you're advancing your dreams and your goals as a woman in society. Because again, we are trying to recognize Women's History Month. Now, I was just trying to do a little bit of research. Women's History Month, I understand that it began being observed annually in 1987 in the United States.
That's a good year.
I wonder why.
Wow, that didn't even relate when I when I saw that date. I didn't even relate that to that. Okay, perfect. Wow, this is coming together. But when I thought about women's history, of course, I said, well, what is her story? We've seen the memes or whatever on social media, her story instead of history, or should I say in addition to history, not replacing history, but we do, as women, we have a story. And so, what is your story? And we want to get into, how you're able to juggle what makes Adell tick, what motivates her, what pushes her into, accomplishing her goals and her dreams. So I want to do, this is something different I'm going to do right now. I'm actually going to do a couple of rapid fire questions for you. Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh.
All right.
Gets adjusted in the seats. All right. Let's go.
All right. So you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So what came to your mind the first time you heard about Women's History Month?
My daughter, because she was born on International Women's Day and Women's History Month, Athena.
Wow. Okay. Do you know what is the symbol for Women's History Month?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. Let me stop. No, I don't know.
I'll come back and give you the answers to those that you don't.
Okay.
Okay. Name one color associated with Women's History Month.
Purple.
Okay. The flower for Women's History Month.
There's a flower?
I know, right?
The rose? I don't know. People always go to roses. So.
They always go to roses, but actually it's a mimosa flower.
Ooh, fancy.
Interesting, huh? And the symbol for Women's History Month is the Venus female symbol. So the circle with the cross handle.
Okay.
Very interesting facts, huh?
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know all those things. That's dope.
Right. So when you mentioned about the first thing that came to your mind when you thought about Women's History Month was your daughter and the fact that she was born on the actual, what did you mention?
I think it's called International Women's Day, March 8th.
Okay. Right. Okay. I remember that being recognized, that day being recognized as such. So in your mind, what were you thinking? This is something that I need to show her or teach her? What?
Yeah, because I hadn't really known that Women's History Month was really a thing until I had her and started doing all the research of what made that day special to remind her. And so I use it as a way to kind of continue to uplift her. Look, sis, when you were born, little one, time changed because it was daylight savings time. Powerful month, powerful day, and then her name means goddess of wisdom. So just kind of continuing to use that as ways to affirm her, you are powerful, you are strong, you are mighty, but it's also okay to have those moments of weaknesses as well. To just kind of continue to encourage her and uplift her and be like, here are the facts. It's not just me. Look what happened in the world when you were born.
Yeah. I love that. That's and, beautiful. Being an example to her, which you've been doing such a wonderful job. So yeah, that's interesting how all of that is definitely relating. So Women's History Month, I don't know about you, Gwen. I can't think of the first thing I thought about. Probably the fact that maybe it was time for something like that to be established, so that we can be, recognized as women, because women do so much. We do so much, but not always getting the recognition, that we need to. So what were some of the things that came to your mind, Gwen, when you first time you heard of Women's History Month?
Well, to be totally honest with you, I understand the start of Women's History Month to be kind of the same as Black History Month. Black History Month started as Black History Week as we all know, by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And it was just, we had too many contributions to fit into just a week. But I thank God for his foresight. And even a month is not enough. To me, every day is Black History. Yesterday was the last day of its observance here in the United States. Today is the beginning of Women's History Month, but I'd like to think it's, for me, the beginning of Black Women's History Month. I understand that Jimmy Carter, our former president, Jimmy Carter, God bless him, started Women's History Week as an observance. And I believe that week was March 2nd through the 8th. So there you go, Adell. March 2nd through the 8th. And then that actually evolved into Women's History Month. So I'm grateful to former President Carter for, acknowledging that. As the mother of mankind, Black women, we have contributed so much across the globe that, we're very deserving of this. And, your first guest today, perfect first guest. So that's what I think about.
Okay. All right. I'm surprised you knew. Well, maybe I shouldn't say surprised, but I didn't know about the color. So until I looked it up, Adell, I'm like, oh, she knew what the color was. All right. I need to do a little bit more research on that mimosa flower and why they came up with that. So I have no clue why.
I will say I'm glad it's not the rose. So, everyone goes to roses. So,
Oh, okay. Because it's always used. That's what
that's why I was like the rose. Like that's really. I'm glad it's not. So.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. Okay, so let me see here. I was looking a little bit at your bio itself, even though you introduce yourself. I want you to actually talk about, if you will, DCP Entertainment a little bit more for me, because I didn't realize all those extra things that you're doing now for DCP Entertainment. But the reason why I want to talk about podcasting is because that's something that's really has really taken off, right? And you've been very instrumental, not only in your podcast, but in helping others get started in their podcast. Throw that in there. But can you talk to us about DCP Entertainment a little bit more for me?
Like in your role, podcast we do, or just in general?
I'm sorry, what was that? Like
the podcast we do, or just in general?
Well, yeah, your podcast, but then your role, a little bit more detail with DCP Entertainment.
Yeah, sure. So DCP Entertainment was started by my former boss at SiriusXM. We left, and then he asked me to join him with oversight. I came in as his chief content officer because I have a background in audio production. So overseeing a lot of the content we were putting out, and then moved into operations because I do a lot of I assist with our marketing, and I do a lot of our cross-promotional opportunities, do a lot of networking and meeting with other folks to see ways that we can grow. Because, once you create it, it's like, okay, how can we grow? How can we get this content in front of as many people as possible? Currently on our slate, we have a few shows. We have Democracy-ish, which is about the political climate from a Black and Brown perspective, with hosts Danielle Mooney and Wajahat Ali. You might have seen them on MSNBC sometimes. And then we have Teray Show, which talks about the Black experience. He talks to a lot of celebrities and game changers, musicians in the space, and asks them, like, what's your superpower? Like, how did you get here? To kind of further and share that insight. We have some stuff that's coming up that, if you follow DCP at DCP Official and all our stuff, you can see those will roll out. I can't speak on that too soon. But basically, my role is to kind of make sure everything is checked. Like all the producers have all their needs and are addressed. Our audio quality is where it needs to be when we're putting it out. We have cross-promotional opportunities to help our content grow. Our marketing arm has enough information about the content for which to try to get us sponsorships and stuff to bring in, money and stuff for the different podcasts. I think what I appreciate about working with DCP is coming from a distribution company that is people of color. And even though we are like independent, it's us, it's still cool to kind of see over the years that we've spoken at different conferences and kind of making a name for ourselves. Because, you know, when you go in, there are a lot of those big names that are white, male, cisgender run organizations. To be the face of a company and have people like recognize you and you be able to kind of speak to different things is really cool. So we're just trying to continue to make our mark on the podcasting industry. We're all about collaboration and working with folk. And, you know, like I said, oversee our newsletter. I even write for our newsletters, which, sidebar, writing is actually a passion of mine that a lot of people, well, they knew me. Some people know, some people don't. But I went to Duke Ellington here in DC area for creative writing, poetry, spoken word. So I actually really enjoy writing and public speaking. So me kind of getting back into writing for these newsletters kind of feeds that little side of me as well, and is encouraging me to write and work on some of my own personal projects. But yeah, we're really looking to grow. We have our studio space that we built 2 years ago in New York City, Podstream Studios. So if you're in the Times Square area by the red chairs, feel free to check us out. It's a really dope studio space. It's like right where they dropped the ball for New Year's. Like all the confetti came into the space. It's like right there. Yeah, like we're always looking to collaborate. We're always looking to grow. We're always looking to give insight, because for us, you know, coming from, you know, a major organization where you see that there isn't a lot of visibility, or it isn't a lot of us. Or I worked on Urban View, so the only time they really wanted to hear from me was Black History Month. Like, hey, what y'all doing? What can we do? But like the other 11 months of the year, it was like, But to go to an organization and also work in a community where we can find other podcasters of color and say, okay, how can we support each other? How can we uplift each other? What can we do to create our own community? I think it's a really unique and awesome experience. And whenever I meet anyone in this space, like if they're struggling, I'm not saying I know everything, but everyone knows me, knows I say every contact is a connection. If I don't know someone, if I don't know it, I might know someone who's able to help you, or I might know someone who knows someone who's able to help you. So I'm always just about how can we uplift each other in this space that we weren't traditionally occupying, because I feel like our voices need to be heard. We don't need someone that is not of our experience to tell us about our experience when we have the ability to speak on our own behalf. And that's a lot of what we're doing at DCP.
Okay.
Awesome.
And you're talking more in the sense of race or gender?
Both.
Okay. So
and even beyond that, like we had a podcast that we had from a Paralympian, Lacey Henderson. Like, how often are you hearing from that experience? Or mental health, you know, like having those different conversations. It's just not, you know, when you would look into podcasting in 2016, you would just see a white man and a microphone. Like, that's it. And that doesn't represent the community as a whole, all of us as a whole. So our goal is like, how can we occupy these other spaces, LGBTQ plus, you know, spaces? How can we bring in different voices and, you know, to kind of have these different perspectives? Like, Wajahat is Pakistani. What's his perspective, you know, on what's happening culturally and politically in the world? Like, how can we talk from a diverse background and not just hear one perspective, but all of ours?
And then I believe not only that too, you know, to hear those perspectives, but even to celebrate us.
Exactly.
Celebrate those perspectives, celebrate our contributions, because we don't hear about those.
Exactly.
I know probably almost every Black person has the story, whether it was at work or a networking function, you know, where somebody asks you, why do you guys have the United Negro College Fund? Or why do you have the Soul Train Awards? Or why do you have the Stellar Awards? I mean, duh. Sometimes you want to say that and, you know, I laugh about it, but that's because we had to be about the business of uplifting our own. We know that mainstream media, you know, and the news media, who's very guilty of this, it's just one-sided. They've got tunnel vision, and that's the way it was designed, so that we would not know and learn our stories, whether as Black women or, you know, as women, because we just did not count. And to a lot of people, we still don't. So we need to sound the alarm so that, we can let others know, hey, no, we do make these contributions. We make a difference. We are the reason why this country runs, basically. We're the reason why, those, elite people have what they have, because it was from, our toiling, our suffering. And we need people to know that. We need our people to know that, so that they can be encouraged, to push on, that, we do have what it takes. Matter of fact, a lot of times we're the smartest in the room. And I'll leave it right there.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I agree, because it's what I've learned too is like, it's not just about, like you said, me, Adell out here. If I see someone else that's like me, like literally just last week, I had lunch with someone who's like, I'm trying to do a podcast. I like mine, but what can I do? Like, I feel like I'm on an island. Even though we live in this world where work is different now, we're not going into these physical spaces. I don't want someone that looks like me or is speaking from a diverse background or wants to add their, their perspective, to the space, to feel like I need to just give up because no one cares about what I'm saying, or I feel alone. So it's about trying to connect, and like, how can my experience help your experience to help someone else's experience? Because not only can we also occupy the same space, we can excel, because who better to tell our stories from these different perspectives, to lift up folk, that looks familiar, or can share into that, like, to grow. What better way than to kind of help out each other? Like, if I look out, I'm like, okay, I see you over there, that's cool, but like, what's going on here with people with similar, how did you get there? Because the goal for someone that looks like me, the path is different, right, than it might be for someone who does not look or sound or have my life experience.
That's right.
Okay. Well, you went ahead and answered my follow-up questions, because that's why I asked you about, were you referencing gender or race, because I wanted to know the significance, for a woman in that industry, the importance, should I say, of her presence in that industry. Of course, since we're talking about women's history, what would be one main important fact? And I'm trying to make sure I'm saying things correct today, because, we women can just be like, yeah, women this, that, whatever, da, 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 da. But the fact of the matter is that we do start a lot, we do a lot, we create a lot. But yeah, so what? Tell me, what do you think is one significant fact for a woman to be her presence in the podcasting industry itself? Just that alone.
Perspective. I feel like we all, even as women, we could be similar, but we all have different life experiences. We can relate on some things, and there are some things that we can empathize or sympathize or bring. I feel like I don't need someone else to tell me about the experience of a woman that is not, so it's like bringing that unique perspective, especially nowadays. Like, everybody's grandstanding, everybody got their soapbox. You on Instagram, that's all you see. It's like, women this and that, your woman doesn't cook for you, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, cool, that's how you feel over there, whatever. But what's the other side of it? Some women may agree, some won't. But I feel like the importance is to have those varying perspectives, because I feel like if there is no movement if we're all on the same plane all the time, or just agreeable. Yeah. So I feel like by having a varied perspective is probably the biggest thing.
Absolutely. Diverse ideas. That's, to me, the true definition of diversity, is to be able to welcome ideas. And it doesn't matter who you are. And I always kind of break it down. You got the president of the United States, and he has a cabinet. And each of those cabinet members are SMEs, or should be, on the matters that, they are heading, those departments or the cabinets that they're heading. It's not the president's job to do every single one of their jobs. That's why they're there. But he has, or she has, the wherewithal to be able to choose those people for those cabinets that will best serve him, that vision. And that's just the same thing with anything that you do. Even, your own company, Adell, your own company, Annette, my own company, we can't do everything, but we have to have that the smarts to be able to say, okay, I'm going to appoint this person or ask this person or pay this person to do this. That's where my intelligence comes in. And then I depend on them because that's their area of expertise to carry out, whatever that directive is.
Wonderful, wonderful. You guys are hitting it. You're hitting it, and you're bringing out, more and more, which is a good thing. Listen, we're about 35 minutes in. Just want to let you know, if you're just now joining us, you're listening to Mind, Body, and Soul with ANet. And I have my wonderful guests here on today because we're focusing on Women's History Month. So I'm interviewing Adell DuBose, COO of DCP Entertainment. And my co-host today, helping me out with this interview, is Gwendolyn Gaston-Gray of Gaston-Gray Consulting. And so we're talking about, because if you didn't know already, Women's History Month begins today. Today is March 1st, and it goes throughout the entire month. And so we're recognizing women, their contributions to society, their contributions to their own personal lives, and how they are paying it forward. And there's just so much that's wrapped up into that. So if you have any questions or comments for my guests on today, go ahead and throw it into the comments section, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We will make sure that we get those read for you on today. But I do appreciate you guys coming in, joining us on today. I think I see my radio buddy over here on Instagram, Mr. Montgomery. Thank you for coming in. I see Apostle Hunt. We appreciate you for coming in on today. I think I recognized Janice Pritchard earlier. Again, if you haven't clicked that share button, it's your time to do it now. Go ahead and click the share button and let everyone know that we are here on today. So let me move forward. And Miss D, I see you. Thank you for coming in. Let me move forward. Unless you have something, Gwendolyn, I was going to move to something else.
No, you can go ahead. You can go ahead and move on. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Adell, do you recognize this quote?
Uh-oh.
I had reasoned this out in my mind. There was one of two things I had a right to: liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other. Do you recognize that quote?
Is that Fannie Lou Hamer? Am I close?
Close.
No.
No?
I recognize it, but
Okay.
part of it. I don't recognize the whole thing, but part of it.
Okay. All right. Gwendolyn, do you recognize it?
Actually, she took my answer. I was going to say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, Fannie Lou Hamer, but.
Okay. Harriet Tubman.
Oh.
Harriet Tubman.
We were close this way.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's probably what I meant in terms of being close. So here's another one. You guys should know this. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still,
I rise.
Right.
come on, I'm waiting for somebody.
Yeah.
God bless her.
Yes.
God rest her soul. Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou. Yes.
Right. But I wanted to recognize some of these quotes, and I have some more because words mean a whole lot. They do. And sometimes when we are juggling hats, roles, sometimes it can be a little bit of pressure, a little bit of stress, to just be honest, as women, sometimes we can go ahead and grab these quotes and these inspirational quotes that have been, said or written down through history. Sometimes that helps you to push forward and to keep going. Now, this one I had never heard before. Maybe one of you have. Words actually matter. They're significant. They can transform and open up our imagination.
Michelle Obama?
No,
That was a good guess.
it was a good guess. Oppo, and I don't know if I'm saying the last name correctly, Tometi, the founder of Black Lives Matter.
Gotcha.
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question because I
Yes.
think this is wonderful. Can we just go ahead and call this what it is for us? Black Women's History Month. I'm just being real because
Yeah.
it is about us encouraging each other.
Yeah.
And it's about us encouraging each other because we have never had a level playing field.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, you know, some people may not agree or some people cringe when I say this, but we are the mother of mankind. We are the ones who gave birth to mankind. But we are also the ones, even still today, who are totally disregarded. We're trampled upon, we're trounced upon. And, you know, especially here in the United States, because we were brought over here against our will.
Yeah.
And then we were separated from our men. So then we had to take what we had and deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
We nursed the slave owners' babies
Mm-hmm.
in addition to our own. We were raped by the slave owners. So with everything that we've had to deal with, and no one can tell me that generational trauma is not real.
Right.
Because it is. And then we still see, you know, fragments of it just in different ways today.
Mm-hmm.
Other women in other cultures, and especially, you know, those who brought us over here, were always, you know, protected and supported by their men. And I'm not saying that we weren't by ours, but we were used as, you know, throwaway. But as Maya Angelou said, still I rise and still we stand. So what encourages me during this month are Black women,
Mm-hmm.
are the phenomenal Black women that you just quoted, including, you know, those that helped to found Black Lives Matter, because Black lives do matter. And it was needed. And it seems like every so often, every, you know, new season, we have to come up with something else so that we can encourage each other and say, hey, you know what, don't give up, because we do matter. And we built this thing. We have had significant contributions, not only here, but across the globe. So you can never diminish our worth. So this is truly Black Women's History Month.
Yes.
Do you want to add on to that, Adell?
There's nothing to add but a mic drop.
Oh, you know what? You know, you know, one thing about Gwendolyn, she is going to just come out. She's going to come out strong with it.
Oh.
You're always trying to make sure that you are, you know, addressing, you know, everyone.
You mean politically correct, but that's not what this is about, because they already have their addressing. They've been addressed.
No, I get it. Yeah, I get it. But I think, you know, of course, it's named Women's History Month and not Black Women's History Month. But that's a good point that you're bringing, is what I'm trying to say. You're bringing up good points because, you know, even as I was pulling up quotes, you know, I saw a lot of quotes, of course, from my sisters. You know, there's some in there, you know, from other races, but I saw more from us. That's interesting. Why do you all think that is? Why did you think I saw more from us?
Because I feel like community-based, like within Black women, there is a need and just a love about supporting each other. Like that's where the whole like Black girl magic thing came from. It's like, how can we uplift and support? I can't speak from another perspective but my own, because I'm Blackity Black. But like, I feel like just from my own experience, a lot of it is like, we have these things that are coming down. How can we continue to uplift each other? How can we occupy creative spaces and find ways to establish our own community and pour into one another? So I feel like that's probably the most concise way.
I totally agree. And not from, that was very eloquently put, because I don't want to come off as being, you know, but, you know, I am who I am, but she's absolutely right. I can't be anybody other than who I am, a Black woman. That's the skin I'm in. That's the skin I was given. It's the skin I will never trade. I thank God for being a Black woman. And so, because evidence has shown throughout the centuries that no one else will or is responsible for lifting us up, then we must uplift each other.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow. So many things are running through my mind right now. You ladies are talking very good. You're talking very good. A couple things right through my mind. One show that Gwendolyn and I did, and I can't remember the exact title, but we wanted to address how we talk to each other. Sisters, us, Black women, African American women, however you want to say it. And we're always using, well, not we, but many are normally using the word be, to reference them. Why? We did a whole entire show on that. And so I'm bringing that up because as you guys were talking, I'm thinking about how you talked about how we should be there for one another. I see all of these. I'm going to get visual here, okay? I see all of these memes and posts on social media. Straighten your sister's crown, and this, that, and the other. And I see that, right?
I love that you just happen to have a crown just sitting right there. It's already there. I love that. You just had one right there. I need that
Actually,
for my office. I need to just have one.
Yes.
Okay.
That is funny. You said that. I'll tell you the story behind that. But anyway, so as you're talking, and I'm totally agreeing with you. Again, you're talking good, but we don't do that though too much. We don't do that straightening of the crown with each other. We don't do that supporting each other like we should. Yeah, this show is about to take a turn. I feel it. We don't do that like we should, or as often as we should.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
With respect to that statement, is that contingent upon the company that you keep?
Mm.
Do you speak to yourself first?
Mm.
Because I could say that, well, we don't do that, and I'm not throwing off, but that might mean that Gwen is not doing her part or her role or being that example, or it could be, the people that I'm choosing to be around.
Yeah, I feel like it's so layered because I feel like, is it that we aren't doing that, or is it that that's the perception that we're not doing that?
Because we don't see it.
Kind of went that. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Like all the time, because I feel like I've been in a lot of different communities. So I will say, like, just from a working space, like not talking about my friends, but like from a collective, Adell enters the workforce. There have been some jobs where it's like every man for himself. It's just me. I'm the Black woman on staff. So sorry, like here. But then I will say, like in the podcasting space, I have a dope village of Black women, like amazing, and it's growing, and so I feel like it's like twofold. I feel like collectively we should occupy spaces where there are visual representations of us helping each other out and fixing each other's crowns. But I also feel like sometimes you're working against the machine.
Yes.
I feel like if you look at, perfect example, a couple of weeks ago, TikTok had this little thing. Sorry, it's a thing going around where it was, I forgot what it was called, but it was like the Black girl train, where you find another Black woman, you follow her, you give her encouraging words, then she pays it forward and does the same thing. Then she pays it forward and does the same thing. And it was this big thing. Like, I'm not even on TikTok, and I knew about it. And what ended up happening was a lot of people got mad about it. Not Black women. A lot of people got mad at it. We already know a lot of these algorithms on social media. You see Black creators doing stuff. making these dances, and then a white creator will make it and it blows up. Next thing you know, she on Jimmy Fallon doing the dances that weren't hers to begin with.
Mhm.
So it's like sometimes when you are trying to put those messages out, you are trying to uplift it, you're working against a greater machine that is suppressing those images or shadow banning those images in a way that
Purposely.
they're not seen intentionally. Exactly. So if I'm just browsing and as a Black woman and who follows a lot of Black women, but when I'm on the just discovery page, I don't see us. It's not necessarily that it's not being done. It's also, you know, it might not be in some places, but it's also working against a greater machine that is trying to suppress those images as well. I feel like it's layers. It's a lot.
It is. And if you really think about it, that's the exact same thing with movies, television, news stations. That's why I was saying earlier, we keep repeating because we have to say, we have to break through, you know, as Black people and say, no, we're here. And we want our people to know that we're here. So in every single genre, every single, you know, method or platform, if you would, we have to do our own thing. And that's why we have the Stellar Awards and the, you know, NAAC. I'm going all the way back. I mean, you know,
because it goes to how can we, once we get into these spaces that we're occupying, I'm a firm believer of looking back and seeing how we can uplift those that might be in a position that I once was in, or trying to reach out to those that are in a position that I want to be in. Because in order, like we've seen changes over the years of what we look like, your TV watching experience, right? It used to look one way. Now you see this because there are more Black creators. There are more folks getting in different ways. There are more Black people in the writers' rooms that you see that it's starting to turn. Is it turning at the rate that everyone may want to? Maybe not. Could it be better? Of course. But it is, you know, starting to evolve because like you're saying, like, we're starting to try to push and occupy those spaces or create spaces for ourselves to show we can do anything you can do and even better, you know, in certain spaces as well. Like, how can we then uplift each other? I feel like it's a lot. It's a lot to it. I do believe that we're adjusting and helping and uplifting each other's crowns. I feel like we can be better. I feel like there's always work to be done. There are always, you know, folk that are against, or, you know, we might not see it, but I also feel like working against the machine within itself is a challenge to try to make sure that those images are out there.
I agree. And I just feel like we are the only race across the world that always has to pivot. Always, because someone is always trying to disrupt, interrupt, you know, make us look bad, you know, so, and then we ended up having to, okay, well, let's do it this way. Since they control this, or they're doing this, and or since they put plants in there, and since, you know, these people are committing crimes with Black prosthesis, okay, well, now we got to do this, you know. So we're the ones that
too. Those, I call them whataboutisms.
Yes.
Like, ooh, Black girl magic. Well, what about blah blah girl magic?
Yes.
Or Black boy joy. Well, what about my joy? Like, it's always these what about. No one's saying you can't celebrate yourself. Go.
And they're already celebrating themselves.
Great. But why is it every time it's like
we do
I
it?
want to highlight this, or all these whataboutisms. Well, what about this? What about that? Why can't you?
Exactly.
You have. Like,
yes. And they always had it, and they've never been required to pivot. But every time we create something of our own, somebody that's not us always wants to come in. They always want to be a part of it. They always want to see what we're doing. But the reason why we're here is because you kept us out of what you were a part of. So why do you want, if you're on purpose excluding us, why in the world do you want to be a part of something that we've created then? That makes no sense to me.
Exactly.
This is a hot conversation. See, I felt it. I knew it was changing. So you guys are just now joining us. Yes, we are still doing the Women's History Month recognition, but this conversation on today has changed to kind of look at our Black women during this month and beyond. Because what did you say, Gwen? What are Black women?
We are the mother of mankind.
Okay. All right. So
it's true.
So you see my guest today, Adell Coleman DuBose, and then Gwendolyn Gaston-Gray is my co-host on today. So we're talking today. This is a discussion that needs to be had. All right. Apostle, thank you. I did see your comment that you shared. Thank you so much. Crystal Hill is here, and she says Adell is the dopest, though.
Yes, she is.
I
Hey,
agree.
Crystal.
Right. Beatrice is here. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate you. She says she is working and watching. Well, I appreciate that. Don't work too hard over there. Brandy has joined us. Great afternoon to you as well. Buddy Gill, did I say hello to Mr. Buddy? Thank you so much for coming in, Buddy Gill. I know
Hey,
you're
Buddy Gill.
working and watching too. But yeah, this is a good conversation. You guys can join in on the conversation. I'm looking on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook for any comments that you may have for us on today, or any questions you may have for my guest or even my co-host, because she will answer your question too. Yes, she will.
This is about Adell.
But yeah, this is good stuff, because I'm glad that you answered that question by bringing out, what's around us and the narratives that we really need to tear down. And you talked about the different layers, because yeah, I guess I probably need to kind of look out myself, and I'm just gonna tell off on myself, look outside. I love the fact that you said you have great support from women in the podcasting industry. That's wonderful. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't have that in the radio broadcasting industry. I don't have a lot of support from the women. I just don't.
You gotta come into one of these podcast conferences. It's gonna change. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Where our people are, we're gonna go find them.
We're gonna go find it. Okay. All right. I'm tagging along to you. Hold on to your bag, and well,
pretty much. Like Crystal say hi. She's one of my podcast fam. Like she's dope. Yeah. We just met because I was taking a random selfie of all the Black people at a conference, and she was in it. And I was like, I don't know her name. I was like, hey, and that's literally how we connected. And now,
wow,
like,
I love it.
Favorite people, like
I do too.
Yeah.
But do you think? And I don't know. I'm just asking. Do you think sometimes that it's the generation gap though? Because it seems
no.
Okay.
I don't believe that. Now, what we do have though today in this generation, whether it's the millennials and alphas or whatever, we have things that we can see it readily now.
Okay.
So it can give the appearance that they are more woke. And I know a lot of people use that term loosely, but again, we are here because our ancestors were woke. That's the only reason why we sit here today. The only reason. I never doubt that for 1 minute. Not only were they woke, but they fought. Don't think for 1 minute that your ancestors said, oh, we just gonna, let them do whatever they want to do. No. And, and different people had different roles. I mean, just like we say about, Malcolm X and Dr. King, God rest their souls, different means to the same end, right? For the most part. And you had to have different means to the same end, because then you had different areas of focus. You had different people where you had to deal with different thinking and different mindset. And we still have that today. So there's never a cookie cutter, but every single one of them fought. Every single one of them sacrificed, because otherwise we wouldn't sit here. I just don't understand how we think that they were wusses and we exist. That's some crazy thinking.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have things at our disposal now that, of course, they never would have dreamed of. But
right.
They fought so that we could experience this. They fought so that, what was his name? Reginald, whatever his last name was, could create the cell phone, the Black man. I mean, so this is our inheritance. This is part of our heritage. This is part of the sacrifices that we must say, okay, we got to make, even with, Adell and the sacrifices that she's making. I mean, she went to high school in the DC area. She is brilliant. She went to Penn State and then, so now she's sharing this, not only with, those people that she networked with, the masses, those people she can touch, but even with her offspring. This is for her posterity, whether it's posterity by blood or posterity by culture. And this is how we help and, each other. This is how we engage each other. We just have, we got a bigger platform now. So, to whom much is given, much is required. So now we've got a greater responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so things we have to do, things that are done on purpose to exclude us, we have to be even more diligent about doing things on purpose to be inclusive of us.
Okay, you said a mouthful there. That was good stuff.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No. It's good because my mind is always going. It's always thinking. Did you want to add to that, Adell, before I say something else about that?
No.
Sure you do. Of course you do.
You do. Go right ahead.
I can see it in her eyes.
I definitely agree for sure that, that there should always be a constant acknowledgement of where we came from, because I do believe that you have to know where you came from in order to know where you've been and to know where you're going. Like, I definitely, I have, like, you got to learn from the past. Mm-hmm. It's a little different for me. I feel like in different spaces, I feel like just generally, overall, like older generations, younger generations, I feel like there does not necessarily have to be a difference, but I feel like social media and certain things kind of flips it for some people. Like, there are some people who are like resisting it or, whatever. And there are some people that are embracing it and are willing to learn or willing to evolve and willing to grow. But I feel like in different spaces, right? So like, say where I work in, like podcasting, I feel like a lot of the people, different age gaps, ranges, there's a curiosity there, but there's also a lot of resistance. It's like, I don't want to listen to that. I'm going to stick here with my radio and I'm good, and I'm not trying to hear all that, and there are some that's like, tell me more, I feel like it's a balance. From my experience in like the workspace, and I feel like I've talked to you both about this in the past, but like, as serious, just full transparency, I struggled because I tried to lean into older people who look like me, and it was met with resistance. It was met with like, they're only making room for like one person at this level, and it's going to be me. And I understand that, trying to solidify your spot, but it was to a space where it was not even necessarily trying to say I was occupying someone else's spot, but someone who may be older than me and wiser, just kind of trying to latch on and just learn. And it was like, no, I'm not retiring. Go away. We're not going to do this. We don't have to be seen. Like, it was met with a lot of stuff that really, like, it made me sad. It negatively impacted me. I think that it made me be like, well, dang, like, I don't really care about what these men have to say. I'm trying to talk to you, potential auntie, like, what's going on. And in my, even in talking to some of my friends who work in corporate spaces, they've been met with like the same things, where like, not necessarily saying like we want to be a threat, but we feel like we're seen as one. And thus there isn't necessarily a way for us to kind of communicate and connect and have that, like you said, lift each other up across the generational line in a way, where yeah, I feel like when we talk about this in a big, deep perspective, because I remember you said to me, like, when I was going through, like, there's a glass ceiling and then there's a brick ceiling for people and women of color. So it's like, how do we break through that? Okay, how? By trying to tap into someone who's been there, who can help uplift. And in my experience, and unfortunately some of my friends that I know that work for corporate America, it's met with resistance. And that was something that was discouraging to me, if I'm just being 100% just transparent in my journey. And to be honest, I do believe that, I don't want to say everything happens for a reason. I don't like that saying. But I do think that in the situation of what I was going through, it forced me to look inward and try to figure out other ways to move around and be more strategic. And it's one of the reasons why I left, because it became a toxic work environment, for me. And I'm not putting everyone in the same box of that person. No. but I feel like it did push me to thus go here, but it messed up my confidence a little bit. So I kind of had to work from backwards. I kind of got to a level, I had to kind of reset myself to then kind of lift myself up. So I do feel like I wish there was more of a space to have these honest conversations through different generations to kind of see where we're coming from, because I don't feel like anyone is necessarily coming in as a threat. But I feel like for me coming up, it was always like, go to college, go to work. They work 24 hours, 365. So you should work 24 hours, 365. But then there isn't really any growth opportunities sometimes because they're not retiring. So then where do I go here? And you just kind of feel stuck. But I feel like if there's a dialogue or, trying to ways to make space for all of us, that I feel like in some industries that does happen. I feel like even beyond industry, like you said, like the camaraderie of just living, I feel like that does happen. But in some spaces, I feel like it doesn't. And if there's a better dialogue behind goals and where we're all trying to be and how we can uplift, I feel like things would be better.
Yeah. And honestly, I totally agree with everything that you're saying. And kind of sort of, you kind of answered your own question, to be totally honest with you, because there will always be someone or people that look like us that will be like, you will find them everywhere. You will find them at series. You will find them in the corporate world. You will find them in education. There's going to always be somebody. But let me say this. In every culture, there's always somebody.
Exactly.
I don't believe it's exclusive to
Black
age gap. I don't think it's exclusive to a certain generation, because you have, I'm sure, some of your peers that are like that too, whether it's about somebody older or younger. So I think that speaks to experiences of that person, coupled with what they were taught and how they were raised, because you're going to find some in every generation. You just happen to to come up on somebody who was just like totally like out of the box, for lack of a better.
That's why I feel like it would be better if there was more intergenerational discourse, because I feel like it's always like, well, I went through this and this was my time. And then the next generation, well, I went through that as a result of this and this was my time. And then I'm sure, like you said, alphas and whoever else, like my children and my children's children. But I feel like that's why it's important to figure out, like, where can we all relate? What is the common thread? How can we have this conversation through that? I feel like sometimes, and I feel like it's getting better, because now I feel like, honestly, like COVID kind of forced us all to sit down and reflect and be like, who else is out there in the world? How can we connect? And kind of cross those intergenerational lines to have those honest conversations, that it doesn't feel like, I don't feel like I can't go to anyone older than me and not talk about my experience. And I feel like where I may have felt like that in the past, things have shifted for all of us in a way where it's like, we're all trying to find ways to relate to each other by having that. So I wish I like conversations like this. I love this type of platform, so that, people will look at this conversation and might feel compelled to talk to someone younger than them or older than them, because we need to have those like conversations. Because like I said, I should know about your experience. I should know what got you there, because I have to know where you come from, where I'm coming from, to know where I'm going. But sometimes it's like, we aren't always having those conversations as we should.
True. And we should. I agree. We should have those conversations more. But I think that we are the kings and queens, meaning Black people, of pivoting. So I like to think of it, and I know this is not everybody's mindset, but I like to think of it as relationships, whether it's personal or work or business or whatever. Relationships, sometimes we have to think of them as projects, right? So meaning that if we want to connect with somebody older, younger, or whatever, and we're just not quite there, then what we need to do is we need to make our little fish, right? And then we need to figure out ways to include them, to get their buy-in, right? So that we can get out of it what we want. Not that we're trying to con people, or not that, but we want to be able to relate. Generationally, because we're all in the same boat, especially here in the United States. I mean, some of us have more money than others, some of us, have experienced other things that some of us don't ever want to go through, but we're still viewed by, powers that be as just Black people. So I think it's incumbent upon us to be able to help each other. And then sometimes that means like taking that extra reach or whatever. And sometimes that means leaving like you did. Sometimes that's what that means.
Exactly.
Because now you are in a spot, right? Whether it was, well, it was Chris reaching out to you, or whether it was Miss Maggie encouraging you, that you had a network of people that said, okay, come on. We know that hurt, but we're going to help you get out of this. We're going to help pull you out.
Exactly. That's why I feel like
it exists somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't, and that's why I said, I feel like that's why it's important to be able to talk across, generations and find, like you said, that common denominator for us to have something that we can be able to relate to. Because I feel like a lot of times people put themselves in these boxes. Well, I'm too old for this, or I'm too young for that. So if we're able to have that dialogue or find something, common ground that we can connect on and build from there. And I feel like I do truly feel like COVID forced that, because we were all looking for something to do and we had no choices but to talk to each other.
True. And then too, because as humans, we need that. We need other human interaction. That's how God made us. Right. So
they're going crazy. Okay.
Wow. You guys took that question and ran with it. No, but that was a good thing.
There was a question. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there was one in there because I'm right. Yeah, you're right, buddy. He says he's enjoying the Adell and Gwen show today. Yeah, have mercy. But you know what?
He's funny.
The reason why I originally asked about, do you think it's generational or has to do with generation, is because it was simply because I see the generation definitely after me a little bit more inclined to, like you say, how you met Crystal Hill, or to be more open, in that regard. While sometimes my generation and higher, of course, or before me, a little inhibited. Just a little bit. No, let me stay in my box, not venture out too much, because that's what we've seen and what we are used to. I learned so much from your generation and younger, Adell. I really do. I learned how to, and I'm talking about myself, jump out of my box, and be a little bit more open-minded, so that other generations can be reached, other cultures, can be reached, and you can, address whatever issues are head on. So that was simply why I was asking that question, but y'all took that. It was good.
I honestly feel like, too, to your point, even just kind of looking at me as a millennial and the generations after me, I feel like people are prioritizing their mental health more. I feel like people are really looking like, what feeds me, like what helps me more, and being, a little more selfish, where like culturally, as a woman, as a Black woman, historically, we have not. Like, it's like, let's take care of everybody else and all their things first all the time. And I will admit, I'm still guilty of it. Like, I was literally talking to my husband the other day. I'm like, I'm starting to block out time in my day that is mine. If it's just me watching something, if it's me writing, it's just mine, because it's like, you deal with the guilt of always trying to make sure that your house is functioning. And then when you're in a leadership position at work, that your work is going. That by the time you take time for yourself after your checklist is done, it's midnight. It's time to go to bed. I'll try again tomorrow. So I feel like younger generations, like I was just talking to someone about, people aren't staying at their jobs as long as they used to. Like, I told somebody the other day, I was like, 8 years. They were like, I'm like, but my dad was at his job for 30-something years, but like, no, when it does not feed you, when it's mentally hurting you, they are out. Okay. Yeah. And I'm like, I get it, because it's like, you can go somewhere, or a lot of people, especially women of color, are creating businesses for themselves. Black women businesses are evolving. That's one of the highest things that have come out pre-COVID. That, like, listen, okay, to the point about that brick ceiling, I'm going to build my own house. I'm going to go out here and do my own thing. So I feel like there's a mental and emotional shift that's happening
Right.
that I love seeing that even within myself. I'm like, hey, if it doesn't feed me or benefit me, or it isn't something that I can't leverage or that I enjoy doing, then why am I doing it? Yeah,
Right.
bills have to get paid, but I left one job and was still able to sustain and be okay. So there are other ways to kind of
I
make
think that's awesome. And you brought that out beautifully. And I think it just makes my point again. We are the professionals at pivoting. And I go back to what I said before. To whom much is given, much is required. Now, if I was to use, my grandmother or my, grand aunt or great aunt, they didn't have the resources that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Mhm.
because now we have more, you have more, Athena will have more, Zora will have more, there's more that's required. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, now, okay, we did do everything, or I can't even say me. I can't say that. I'm the beginning of Gen X. Some people say the end of baby boomers. It depends on who you're talking to. But I didn't even go through what my mom went through. I had a little bit more than what she had. She had a little bit more than what her mom had. And
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so on. So because we have more is required. We have to reach out now because now we have the means to be able to do that, to
Mm-hmm.
network with our fellow sisters and be encouraging and lend that hand. And it's not that, Harriet Tubman and all of them, didn't want to do it. I mean,
Right.
helped free so many people. So
She
that was
embraced
that
it.
means,
Mm-hmm.
at great risk. But
Mm-hmm.
then as the generations went on, our insistence on having our own, insistence on being included in certain aspects,
Mm-hmm.
we've been given that, or we have our own means, or we have more of a means now, because they didn't allow them books, they have to sneak and
Right.
read books.
And
So
we see
now
what's happening now.
we're reading books through Kindle and
Mm-hmm.
iPads. And, so now for Gwendolyn, I have to do a little bit more. That's what's required of me.
Mm-hmm. It's my dad used to always say when I was growing up, and that stuck with me. He was like, "Don't be like me, be better than me." I like
Yes.
he creates.
Yeah.
My dad worked very, very hard. If anybody know Richard, shout out to you, Pop.
All right, call
Like
that.
he works very, very hard. And like I remember growing up, like that was my motivation when I wanted to give up in high school because it was a lot with I went to an art school, so we had double the work. We had 9 to 3 was regular academics, 3 to like 5 or 6 was your arts. And so I would be getting out of school 6:30, 7 o'clock sometimes if we had a show or later. And I'm like, this is hard, And I would just always remember my dad. He always wanted more. Like, don't be like me, be better than me. I'm working hard. I'm working all these different jobs to be able to help put you through school, to be able to provide for you. And then, he pats me on the back and he tells me good job. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just it's a constant reminder. Like even
Mhm.
now, the things that my husband and I are leveraging, in our home purchasing and other things that we want to do, we're thinking about how this can benefit our children, to your point, and like where they can start off. Because I feel like culturally, like that's something that we should be doing. I'm not of the mentality of, well, I struggle, so you gotta struggle too.
Right.
No, no. If I'm here, you're starting here and you're going over
Exactly.
there. I'm not gonna be like, walk it back and let's start from back
Exactly.
there so you can know. I'm gonna tell you about my life experiences. I'm gonna give you, a heads up. I'm gonna talk to you through those things, but I'm also gonna let you learn because you should be able
Yes.
to learn and explore your own, you know, test things out. I'm gonna be here to love on you and care for you, but here's where your starting point is. Here's where I'm trying to set you up.
Which
Like
is
here's
awesome. So not only
Yeah.
are you doing that for your blood posterity, you're doing that for the cultural posterity because people see what you are doing. They see what you're accomplishing. They see how you are rearing your children. They see that you're a wonderful wife. So that means that you've gotten, you're making an impression on them. You are a positive encouragement. So now they're like, okay, if Adell Coleman DuBose can do it, I can try to do it, or I can do it. So that's how we are sewing. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So
Well, with that in mind, I'm going to segue into this next question. Adele, how do you think other women can relate to your story?
Uh, I don't I don't know how I would answer that.
And it would be you kind of like, you may think of it as bragging on yourself, so to speak. But I mean, there's some things that you've done, some things you've accomplished. How can they relate to maybe the positives of your story,
Um,
the pros and cons, should I say?
yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Like, yeah, I mean, there's a good, it isn't without its challenges, you know. Like I left Sirius with absolutely nothing as a option. So I'm very, very grateful to having overcome that. So I guess overcoming a lot of challenges, you know, just kind of, I always just try to stay focused. I always felt like I did what I was supposed to do so that when things didn't
Mhm.
work out, I was like, but I did the right thing, you know. I feel like the best lesson I've ever learned, and I say to myself over all the time, is give yourself grace. Um, I feel like because I'm an overthinker, I'm very analytical. I wake up and my mind is, and I'd be like, hey, you know, we gotta slow down, eat breakfast. But I feel like just like you said, hearing about my story and my life experiences, it wasn't always easy. It was just left lessons that I even learned along the way. Like I came into Sirius as a call screener. I was qualified to do board operations, but I was like, let me just get in the door. Let me see where I can go. And then opportunity will present itself, which it did. And you know, I ended up leaving there as an EP for the channel, talking to
Right.
people, meeting people, and everything I do with my mom, or rest in peace to her, in my heart. Because
Mhm.
like I always just like, how can I work and move to make her proud, or how can I work through those challenges? Because, you know, to your point, you know, about your older, you know, ancestors are having that community. Unfortunately, in my a lot of my professional career, my mom was not here. My mom passed away in 2011. She was there for my serious time for like maybe 3 years, but after that she was not. And so it's like you think about like, what would she think about what I'm doing? Am I crazy? Like, what is this? What did I do? You know, you know, what have I done? But I feel like just being, like I tell people all the time, like I'm not, I'm an open book. I love talking. I that it was this thing going around that was like, the thing you got in trouble in school the most for is probably what you do as a professional, and that is me. I got in trouble all the time for talking. They would be like, Miss Coleman, Adell's a great student. She just talks entirely too much during class. That's me. Like I'm an open book. I love talking. I talk for a living. I like to talk about my life experiences. So I feel like people can relate because of like the challenges that I went through and the things that I've overcome, and just know that like I'm I'm trying to be better about talking about the good things that I've accomplished. Like I don't brag a lot, but I will like mention it. But I'm also like, how can we relate and how can I uplift others? Because I feel like there is a common thread for all of us, you know, like
Mhm.
I feel like our life experiences as women, as Black women, you know, give us something that we can all like connect on. Um,
Yeah.
so I feel like just hearing from me and the stuff I've been doing. It's a lot though. I don't know if people have all that time. It's a lot.
No, but you answered perfectly. That was good. That was
Yes,
good.
beautiful,
You know, because
beautiful.
again, people should be able to relate, and then that would be the whole purpose, even of this particular segment on today as well, to try and inspire, you know, others. There may be some that are watching live now, or they may come back and watch, you know, the
Yeah.
recording. But there should be
Give
something that
yourself
a
grace. That's what I always
takeaway.
say. Give yourself grace. I learned that because I can be the harshest critic on myself. Like, but why didn't you? And then I'm that person that I'll talk in circles when I'm just like, but I did this, but I did that, but I did, like I'll just keep, and I just had to tell myself like,
Oh
you know,
God.
calm down, girl. Give yourself grace. Like, give yourself
Right.
grace. And if I can't come out of that spin wheel, I'll tap into like my husband. I'm like, he'll be like, yeah, you talking in circles. You're fine. You know, like it's okay. Let's just breathe and just kind of say it's okay. Everything's not going to be perfect all the time. That's how I learned. You know, the way I manage my team is the way that I wish I was managed at Sirius. The way
Ah.
I would have liked to be able to approach my boss. My boss, my direct boss, he was cool. That's how I'm with him now at
Mhm.
DCP. But like once he came left, it was like a free for all. And like even before him, the way that I was like handled or like brushed off, or things that I felt like should have mattered. Like we do check-ins. So we have a weekly check-in with the whole team, and then I have a one-on-one with all my team. We'll talk about the day-to-day. We'll talk about the job that needs to get done. And then I will literally say, how are you? Is there anything that you need? Is there anything that I can support? Like we have mental health days. Like if you just need to like take a day, okay, let's figure out how we can handle your load, and let's take a day. We're not above any job. I'm chief operations officer. I will still jump into one of these recordings and edit a show if need be. Like I'm not above anything. Like in order for all of this to be able to move forward, we have to work collaboratively. So it's like, how can we, help one another? And so that's one thing I'm always pouring into my team. Are you good? Are you sound a little, you good? You said you weren't feeling well. What's going on? What time can you be done today? So you can just take the rest of the time off because the work is still getting done. You need to talk about something. There's a conflict. Let's talk through this. I want you to be heard. How can I, even if it's something I don't agree with, I still want you to be heard. How can I pour into my team in the way that I wish I'm the boss that I had wished for, in my past job experience?
That is beautiful. And from a human resources perspective, you can't get any better than that. And I want to let you know or remind you, because I'm not letting you know anything you don't already know. You went through that so you could become the boss that the other person should have been. That was a teaching moment, and you received that well, because then you pivoted and then you said, okay, because I went through this and I don't want anybody to feel like that. And I don't want anybody to feel toward me like I felt toward the other one, right? Not only that, we're speaking about, Chris, and you being, working with Chris now. There still had to be a favorable relationship when Chris was at Sirius, right? He had to think enough of you to say, hey,
come over here.
Come on over here, right? So
and everybody who knows, that's my work husband, as people say. Like, I truly appreciate him. I truly I think he is such a good person, and like what his goal is, I believe in it. Because if I didn't believe in it, I might have been like, I don't want to leave for another. But I believe in what he's trying to do, and what we both learned from being people of color at these places, and the type of culture that we want to create outside of DCP, but also within. And I appreciate him forever for having at times more faith in me and my abilities than I had in myself. I remember vividly, I'd be like, okay, you want to go talk to the staff? And I'm like, no, you can go talk to them. He will push me, and I'm like, why is he pushing me? But I really do appreciate how I've learned and evolved, because I agree with a lot of how he operates and how he talks to people, and it doesn't have to be this all the time. Yes, sometimes it's like with your kids. Like when I fuss a certain way, they know mom is not playing. I feel like that way with my team. If Adell is like, really? Okay, something is off.
Then that's the limit, or
yeah. So it's just kind of having that transparency. And what I appreciate too is being brought in early on, so that he and I sat down and talked and decided what the culture would be, what we wanted to bring in, what we were looking for. And it benefits us, because
Beautiful.
We get a lot of compliments for what we're creating and what we're putting out, because our staff is happy.
Exactly. That's beautiful. Yeah. And we know that everything is not going to always be perfect.
Right.
But as long as we know that we are doing the right thing, right, and we're giving our employees every single solitary tool to succeed, if they don't, we've done everything in our power that we could do.
And that's something I had to come to terms with too, because I was like, okay, this didn't work out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey guys, we are entering into our last half hour of this segment, and I just appreciate all of you coming in. If you're just now joining us, I thank you for coming in. You missed quite a bit, but you can always go back and rewind once we end on today. I do see JR's come in and saying hello to everyone, and happy birthday again to you, Gwen. Brandy says, where are you at, Brandy? While you're building, everybody in the community is watching, learning, being inspired. And
Amen.
This is really what we want again to accomplish in this segment on today. While everybody's watching, we want them to be inspired. We do want them to be inspired by our discussions about our journey and what we've gone through and what we've accomplished. You on today, some things can be said to help push someone else a little bit further.
Can I say really quick to that? I really appreciate this chat and I appreciate that comment because, especially like I said, we don't work traditional work anymore where you're out in the world. So it's like, my love language or my work language is affirmation. And so that makes me feel really good because I don't think about it. Like when people are like, you want a guest on this? Sure, I'll talk. Oh, I just did this, or I submitted for that, or I'm speaking on this, or like you could get lost in the day-to-day in the fray that you don't really think about it beyond your little bubble. And so you're like, hey, while you're doing that, you're being watched and it's inspiring. Like I truly appreciate that comment. Thank you for that and all the comments. But I feel like that's something that we have to continually be reminded of, that it's bigger than me. It's bigger than this. And, I appreciate you guys and I appreciate that comment. Thanks, Brandy.
Beautiful.
Brandy? Yep, that was Brandy. You're right. All right, I have a few more rapid fire. Hop back on, please.
You do?
Right? Hold on, let me get adjusted. Okay.
These are not difficult. These are not difficult.
I don't know. I answered like one of three right.
All right, timer starts now. What's your strongest woman's quote that you've heard?
Probably the one you said earlier about Maya Angelou, Still I Rise. I feel like that's a good one.
Okay. What's the weakest woman's quote you've ever heard?
The weakest? I don't know. This one I just said, I don't know.
Oh goodness. Okay. I mean, or you could have said I don't have one. That's cool too. Do you have a favorite woman's quote? I know you referenced Maya, but do you have a favorite?
When she said, when people show you who they truly are, believe them.
Buddy Gill, are you still on here? Because that's Buddy's favorite quote. That is
it's valid. Quote. It's true.
Actions speak louder than words.
They do. People show you all the time who they are. And I feel like some of our biggest mistakes is trying to rationalize or over-explain stuff for the betterment of who we think they should be. And then we end up getting hurt in the long run. Believe people when they tell you and show you who they are. You will be a better person for it and understand and accept it, even if it's from someone really close to you. Because when you believe in who they are, you can intentionally decide how you will move about and around them.
That's right. Pivoting. That's right.
Was that a mic drop moment for me?
I was going to say readjust, but Gwen's word today is pivoting.
I have a horrible woman's quote. I know you weren't asking me, but I just thought about something, and then now I'm going against what I said earlier because now I'm opening up to all women. The worst quote I think I've heard was "Shut up and dribble."
Okay. So that was a, like you said, it wasn't a woman's quote, but yeah, all right.
That's all the energy we will give that.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. Not on Black Women's Month Day. No.
Exactly. It wasn't a sister, okay?
We're going to end that right there.
Lord have mercy. Okay. Give me a word or sentence. I kind of felt you did this, but I'm asking again anyway. Give me a word or sentence to inspire other women.
Give yourself grace. And when people show who they are, believe.
I'll let her get away with that. That's fine.
And be open. Be open to meeting people, and having those conversations. Because you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
Okay.
I feel like this is a whole mic drop segment for me.
I know, girl. She's spitting.
Listen, this is not a rapid fire, but I do want to ask you, Adell. And again, we're talking about her story. So your story today. how can you relate your journey, your personal journey, to the psychological and then the spiritual aspects of everyday life?
I think for me it's important to stay grounded in something. Like prayer, meditation, just something to help. So just full transparency for me, um, due to some of the things that I've been through, I got diagnosed with PTSD and depression and anxiety. And when I found myself spiraling out the most, in addition to still trying to function, was when I wasn't grasping for anything. I just kind of let everything go and let everything flow. Um, what held me was meditation and then meditative prayer. And, just really being open to that. And then knowing what works for you. We aren't cookie cutter people, so cookie cutter formulas don't always work.
Right.
Sometimes I have to literally get the little singing bowl, and just that chiming noise is the most relaxing thing for me in any space. It pulls me out of whatever space I may be in, and allows me to have a clear mind. Because sometimes if I am there trying to pray through it, I can't think clearly. I find something that's able to kind of help me to literally physically and emotionally remove me from that headspace. And so those bowls really, it taps into my senses. That's what works for me. Um, Also, I know when my husband watches this, he's gonna laugh. The smell of rain is very calming for me. It's like the most amazing thing ever.
Okay.
It's like a,
Yes.
a pending storm. I'll open the windows and just the smell of rain. It does something to me. It just literally, if I could bottle it up and just spritz it everywhere, I would. I feel like I've been able to come past a lot or work through a lot. I still deal with it in the back pocket every once in a while. Probably the most thing is anxiety, because I live in an anxiety driven world. I function in a quick paced work environment. So anxiety is there looming. So I feel like finding different things that works. It's not going to be just one. So for me, it's the sound. Sometimes it's journaling. Um, and then I'm getting better at this, but knowing that I can tap into people that I can trust. It's very hard for me to always just kind of be open, and also trust that the people are going to have the best intentions, because unfortunately in the past I've had a friend or someone I trusted use my mom's death and weaponize it against me when they were upset. So that made me, in true Adele fashion, become very like closed off and recluse with that part of me. And so by it being that part, it kind of snowballed. Like, you can't trust these people with nothing. They use all this stuff against you. So I'm getting better at finding my little community. I don't really believe that you got to have 50 million people around you at all times. The older I get, the smaller my circle gets, but the more realer it gets for me. And I really feel like I can trust those. But being able to find somebody that, even if they don't agree with me, but just like listens to me, like I'm going through it, like just having that way of being able to outpour. So I think like the short, quick answer overall is just to say finding different ways that work to be able to outpour and thus clear your head, and then also give yourself grace, knowing that you don't have to jump back right back into it, be it work, mommyhood, whatever that may have brought you to the space that you're like giving yourself that breather to take a walk or reset and figure out best ways to strategize. For me, it's also writing everything down. I know we
Mhm.
live in a digital age. That's great for them. But if you come in here every day, you're going to see these. I write everything down. I have to. I have to literally get the physical act of pouring it out. If I'm just like typing it, it doesn't feel right. I have to have dry erase boards around me. I have to write it. So pouring into and pushing into the systems that work for you and trying different things. You might try something and be like, oh, no, that doesn't work. But you don't know if you didn't give it a try.
That's right.
That's true. Ooh, that was a wonderful
Beautiful.
response. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So,
That's good stuff. And Adele, many of you that have heard her on my show before, you know her story. and what else she had to deal with personally and to get her to this point, which is another reason why I really, really and truly admire her, because she's able to overcome or move through the trauma and things that she had to deal with. And with that in mind, being able to also recognize when someone else is dealing with that as well, and how to help them. So that's what I truly appreciate about you. And yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
She's
right
a
there.
strong Black woman.
Indeed. Indeed. You are. Listen, here's a quote here. Think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is another stepping stone to greatness. Does anybody
Nefertiti.
No. No. Does anybody, Adell, do you know anybody?
I'm gonna say Queen Latifah.
Just because I said queen in the quote.
I mean, she always say queen something. It just felt right.
Yeah, she really does. Actually, that's Oprah Winfrey.
I would not have guessed that.
Me neither.
I wouldn't have either.
Yeah, she is a queen, but I never would have guessed it.
But I wouldn't have guessed that.
Right, right. Hey, Audrey, I see that you've joined over on Instagram. Thank you for coming in. Another quote. And that's what people want to see when they go to the theater. You may not know this, but I'm going to read it anyway. I believe at the end of the day, they want to see themselves, parts of their lives they can recognize. And I feel if I can achieve that, it's pretty spectacular.
That's got to be a director.
Or an actress.
Any guesses? Who did you say? You guys are in the right industry.
No kidding. You gave it to us.
Right. I'm going to say my favorite person, Angela Bassett.
Oh, no.
She's gorgeous. Just shout out to her, Black lady.
Yes, shout out.
She is my inspiration. She is my goal. Okay.
What? All the time. I love her.
She is absolutely
right.
positivity.
She's amazing.
Is it Ava?
No.
Ooh, that was a good one.
That was a good guess. All right, y'all give up.
No. Nope.
I'll read it again. And that's what people want to see when they go to the theater. I believe at the end of the day, they want to see themselves, parts of their lives they can recognize. And I feel if I can achieve that, it's pretty spectacular.
Theater.
Is
Is it Viola?
I was going to say that. Was it Viola?
Viola Davis.
Okay.
Very good.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah, those are just some of the quotes that I. Right, exactly. No, but you know what? And then it kind of makes you, inspire a little bit more to try and go and find some more quotes and see what else other people have said that they've captured. That you can go and research or whatever. But yep, Viola Davis. That's who that was. Last few questions here as we're ending. Very simple. How do you celebrate Women's History Month? Or as you guys have deemed it in this particular segment, Black Women's History Month. How have you celebrated in the past? What will you do this year? Adell.
For me, I just try to create a space on my platform or whatever to shout out and highlight and acknowledge women of color, Black women. And then with DCP, we highlight we highlight women creatives and that are in the podcasting space, either hosting, creating content, doing something. Like, just how can we highlight, just shout people out and just share our spotlight with them. So I guess I do that for myself and for professionally.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, Gwendolyn?
I just want to say that is so beautiful because she's always giving. Because I was going to say, pamper myself.
I need to do that though. So yes.
That's one
Focus
thing
on
we
me.
cannot forget about. We can't forget about ourselves. You know, we're
I mean,
all
we're going to
you're right.
Hawaii this month, so
And I'll be in
Okay.
their suitcase. Just kidding. Just kidding.
and I'll be visiting my great aunt who is 87 years old, who lives out there. So
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Okay, well that's a good self-care right there.
Yep.
So yeah. All right. You guys, I don't know how anyone else is going to celebrate you need to celebrate Women's History Month. Black Women's History Month. My sister has come on here and declared a whole new she done changed the title and everything.
it was when she did the Wakanda for me that
Right. I mean, just all matter of factly and everything. It's, just call it for what it is. All right.
Yes,
This has been good. As we're ending on today, anything else that maybe you didn't get a chance to say that you want to leave with us on today, Adell?
Well, first I will say thank you very much for having me. This has been a lot of fun. I really enjoy, talking to you guys and, being in this space. I just have the giggles the whole time that we're together. So this has been great. This is a wonderful way to kick off, this month. So I'm really, really excited about that.
Good.
And to your listeners and everyone, they can feel free to follow me, on Instagram or wherever at SkyKiss. And no, I always forget. I think I sent you my stuff. I always forget what my socials are. But like just stay. I know I'm yeah, it's bad. But yeah, stay encouraged. Give yourself grace. Do some self-care.
Yes.
Uplift a Black woman, and just be great. Thank you for having me.
Beautiful.
I remember what my social media is. I never remember it, but I'm sure you have that. Thank you.
Yes, I do. And I'm going to try and type it into the comments section.
Yes, my Instagram is sky_kiss3D. And then my Twitter is at skykissed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
please put it in there. Annette, thank you.
We're typing this now. Gwen, are you able to share with us where they can find you or any last words first and foremost?
Well, you can find me at Gaston-Gray Consulting on Facebook, or you can find me on Instagram at Gwen, GWEN, excuse me. I think it's 6187. Last words, Adell, you've just been phenomenal. This, is a wonderful beginning, ANet, to Women's History Month with an emphasis on Black women. That's right. And you've been such an encouragement. It doesn't matter your age or whatever, and I know that you will encourage others. So I'm encouraging you and ANet and all of the female viewers. Sometimes you just have to encourage yourself. Go look in the mirror and say, "I'm every woman. It's all in me. Anything you want done, baby, I do it naturally."
Oh, that's all I can contribute because I'm not.
I wouldn't even want to try that. That's good stuff right there. Good stuff. Thank you for lending your vocal cords on today. All right, so I think did I get this right?
SkyKiss_3D.
Okay. Yeah. ANet.
On Instagram, yeah.
Change the IG.
Yeah, Sky_Kiss3D.
Sky_ Gwen, can you do it for me? in your own, but you know what? What we'll do, we'll make sure that it's corrected.
She put it in the chat. Do you see it?
Let me see. Did she?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I was trying to get my name, but someone's been sitting on Adell Coleman on Instagram with no posts for like a while. Nothing.
Oh no.
Is that okay? Okay. All right.
It
All
might
right. So I'm
be
going to
then
make sure I update
20.
this when we. No, it keeps coming out like 3D for some reason. Okay. We'll get that corrected for you guys. All right. And so you'll make sure to know where to go and find her. But Gwendolyn, I also need you to put your information in the comment section as well, because when people come back to this, they can look at the links to be able to continue connecting or connect with you all. All right. So yeah. Okay. So that is okay over on YouTube. I'm going to update that as well over on YouTube so you guys have the right information, okay? We don't want you to miss her wherever she is on social media. Social media is our life now. No. This has been grand. Again, thank you for your time on today, for answering my crazy rapid fire questions and sharing again with us, about your story. We appreciate that. And Gwendolyn, thank you again for coming in and helping me out on today.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor and a privilege.
It's been fun.
Yes, this is great. This is great.
Yeah. We
All right,
gotta
guys.
come back at the end and close it out.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said we gotta come back at the end and close it out.
Right. There you go. There you go. All right, guys. As they're exiting out on this afternoon, I just want to thank you guys again for your time, for supporting us on today. I'm seeing a delayed video over here of you doing your Black Panther, Gwendolyn. But thank you to my listeners, to my supporters, all of you, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook Live. Audra, did I recognize you, Audra? Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you. I'm sorry. I like to do that because we want to make sure we include people, right?
Yes.
We're
glad that you like to do that. Yes.
Okay. All right. Guys, next week, I actually have 2 shows scheduled. I have Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. So that is a different time and a different day that I want you guys to make sure of. We're going to play the promo for that. And then, of course, we'll be back here on Wednesday next week for another women's HERstory, segment. Okay, so stick with us. We'll play the closing and we'll see you soon. On the next session of Get Caught in a Net.
Caught in a net with ANet. For your mind, body, and soul gets caught in a net with ANet. It's your intellectual radio show, here to inspire you and encourage you to be your very best. Get caught in a net with ANet. Get caught in a net with ANet.